you can't be too like pushy about what you think. Just remember that sometimes all we need to hear, like all people need to hear is like, "Hey, I am here for you if you need me." Like we may not agree on everything, but I am here for you. If you need me, I'm always here for you. And I think that's the best stance to take because I know myself, at least as an athlete, maybe not every other person, but an athlete, but in particular, we are so hard headed. And that's part of what makes us great is that we will and will not listen to anything that we feel like is going to take away from what it is that is important to us in that moment. Like we are just hyper focused on it. And so for me, anyways, it's like the harder she pushed, the more I resisted. And that was just me in life. The harder anything pushed me in life, the stronger I was going to be for it, the more I was going to resist, the more I was going to rise above. And so I really feel like I was forged in adversity. It was the adversity that made me stronger. And I always love this analogy or study, if you will, that there were these scientists, and this actually happened, scientists, and for whatever reason, they were growing trees and they had it all right. They're like, we have it all right. We've got the light, we've got the soil perfect, we've got the pH balanced, we've got the fertilizer. Like, I mean, and these trees were growing beautifully, perfect until they reached a certain height and then they just fell over. Like literally just like limp. They fell over. And the scientists failed to recognize that one thing that they didn't account for was wind. It's the wind that actually gives the trees the strength to stand. And if you remove the wind, the resistance, the trees are not able to stand strong because they never develop the strength. And for me, it was all about getting through those times of adversity and pushback, right? So you push into me, I'm going to push back in everything that I did. And when I drove into the sport, I was like, the sport is pushing back on me and I'm going to push through. I'm going to be stand stronger for that. Unfortunately, the same thing kind of happened with my parents and my family because I felt like they were pushing, and I was like, no, I already know how to play this game. I'll just push harder, and it led to our relationship, failing for many years. We just didn't really talk. We didn't communicate, and I wish that I had had somebody that wasn't saying, you need to get out of that relationship because I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't hear it. I didn't believe that. I wasn't in that mindset. I thought that this relationship was good for me. So, or at least I wasn't ready to hear those things yet. I just wasn't ready. And so I think maybe if I had a comfortable place to go and say, you know what, I am kind of upset about this, or I am not feeling so good about this. Maybe I could have had somebody to just like hear me, and then I could have heard my own self. And I might have decided at that point that I was actually the one deciding that I didn't want to be in this relationship, as opposed to the more people telling me to get out of it. It was like, no, then it was almost like I had to fight for it, right? It was like a reverse psychology that I wasn't aware of at the time. I just know it now. And now that I'm a parent and I have a 3 and a 5-year old, I realize how important it is to make my children feel like I'm on the same team. So it's like, put your shoes on. I don't want to. I'm tired. My legs are tired. Like, okay, well, I could be like, no, go put your shoes on now. Like, I've now become the enemy, as opposed to, all right, well, if you're feeling a little bit tired, how about I hold your hand and we'll go together? Or how about I'll go get your shoes and you're going to put them on, like a team effort. So, anyways, this is as I grow into this, I realize like how important that is for our human psychology to feel like the people that we love and care about, and vice versa, that we're there for them, whether we necessarily agree with what they're saying or feeling at any time. It's like, we're on their team.
100%. I think the tree analogy one, and I knew coming into this that you were a parent. Bear and I are new parents as well. It's like that's a conundrum I think you find yourself in as parents. Is you literally just said adversity is what shaped me. I feel the same. I grew up in a very interesting dynamic in as a hillbilly in Southwest Pennsylvania, and I look back on it and laugh. But I'm like the adversity as a child and stuff. Like I wouldn't trade that for anything, and just the kind of weirdness that we grew up in. But as a parent now, it's interesting because you want to provide for them. You obviously want to be as loving as possible, but it's always like, where is that line of giving them too much and too much support and then also allowing them to have their own journey, expose themselves to that adversity that's been such a big part of yourself, as you just mentioned, myself, I know Bear as well. It's an interesting, I think we may have talked about that on one of the earlier podcasts, is like, where is that line, and how do you make sure, I think it relates to what you just said. You have a unconditional support for them, but you also don't put your fangs in them, and you allow them to go explore, and they're gonna naturally mess up. They're gonna make mistakes, and as long as you're there unconditionally to support them, and not in an enabling way, but just be there as a kind of safety mat for them. I think for me, that's kind of where I rationalize. It's like, yeah, don't, like, no judgment, like, be there as support, but then also be willing to cut the ties when they're ready and let them go explore, let them go make their mistakes, but have you to fall back on in a way that you're still real with them. Yeah, you're still real, but you're not
Absolutely.
enabling.
Yeah, you've already got it figured out. Good job for being a good parent.
I'm sure I'll mess
That's
it up,
great.
but
I love
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah.
You know,